So Britannica, you can use encyclopedias like Britannica, and they have a good reputation and they can be found for free online. So when you're looking at concepts like this, I think it's worth checking them out. So make sure you quote people properly. So with the Britannica page, and there's also other examples, for example, other encyclopedias like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy that you can find online for free, which it could be quite useful if you're looking to produce more like a philosophical style answer. Maybe I'll get into that. I'll get into that later. But you can see someone has actually written an article and they have his name on there. So you need to make sure you say Cornwall writing for Britannica says that economic growth, quote, is a process by which a nation's wealth increases over time, unquote. And you can see there are two main facets to this as well. So, we can see the more we look into this, that economic growth is not going to have one precise textbook definition, but it's something that even, people writing definitions themselves acknowledge can be a little bit vague. So it's important to make sure that at some point later, you can justify why you've picked out such a definition. Anyway, the two main things that we need to bear in mind is that is used in two different contexts, is used in terms of short-term economic performance, what a banker might be interested in. And the second context in which it might be used is broader economic theory, probably a more academic context, like the one, for the essay competition. And it refers to an increase in wealth over an extended period. And at the same time, remember what I said before about the idea of like continuous, sustained growth, like something over an extended time period. Remember, there's also another time element in this title. So they're asking about an increase in wealth over an extended period. But the idea of an extended period is also, very vague. For one person, it might mean 100 years. For another person, it might mean 50 years. So just bearing this in mind, because the idea of time, when we're setting the parameters of the question, will be very important later on. And I've also flagged this page. So McKinsey is a consultancy, is a management consultancy firm, which is, it's a modern company. It's not an academic publisher or anything. And it's also quite famous, so it can be useful perhaps to maybe include different kind of perspectives. You don't have to do this, but I've flagged this up here because you can see that the definition between Britannica and McKinsey is a tiny bit different. So McKinsey is thinking very much in terms of like GDP, for example, whereas maybe like a historian looking at economic growth in other contexts will realize that you can't actually use GDP to measure, the economic growth of Roman Britain, because there's no way on earth that you will have the sources to find, the total amount of goods and services a country has produced in a certain period. And remember, again, there's this kind of a parameter that you need with regards to time in the question. So the goods and services a country produces in a certain period. So again, is that 20 years? Is that 10 years? Is that 100 years? Or is that the full 300 years before the later 18th century? And it's interesting that they bring up a methodological problem. And I think this is something that I will bring up in a later question, because how can economic growth be measured accurately?